Girls and boys and assembled company, welcome to the World Storytelling Cafe, and it is Friday. I don't know what time it is in your part of the world. It's midday here in Texas. It's 6 o'clock in the UK. I think it's probably around midday in Bubba C's place, and it'll be 7 o'clock with Ali. So we've got the world clock going on. So, but this week, this Fridays, as we all know, it's stories for children and anyone else that is listening. I never think stories are for any particular age group, but it's and we are very privileged this week to have with us the amazing Sef Townsend. So if we could give Sef a big round of applause, and then it's over to you, Sef.
Oh, please. Hello, everybody. It's so nice to be here at this very special moment, because the people from the World Storytelling Cafe are about to go to Morocco for a festival. And we hope that it will happen in 3 weeks' time, because we've had the pandemic. But we're fingers crossing, and we're hoping to go to Morocco to tell stories. And one other thing I would like to say before I start, I don't know if it's still working there, John, but if you go into the World Storytelling Cafe, underneath my name, you have a tip box. Is it still working?
It's still working.
Yes, because if you'd like, anybody would like to drop a coin or two into that box, all the money that you put into it will go to something that's happening in Morocco. When people need something to eat, they go to a very special cafe, and we will give all that money to the Henna Cafe. It's called the Henna Cafe, isn't it, John? Ali, you know it's that, don't you? Okay. It's all very silent there. So shall I start with a story? I'll start with a story.
I'll tell you what, I start with the story, but I've got to say about Henna Cafe, for those that listen, they gave away their 50,000th free meal the other day, which they've done. Ali was around there. The Pasha came of the Medina. So that was a big occasion. But right now, our big occasion is Seth Townsend. So
okay,
Seth, could you tell a story?
Here we go. So before I start, I think I need to have a hat on that's not quite so wow. I'm going to take it down and take this hat off. And I want you to decide by maybe waving, if I put this hat, this green hat on. It's called a sheshia. It's from Tunisia. So there's my green storytelling hat. Or we have the traditional color of red. Now, who wants me to wear the red hat? Oh, that's two people that I can see. Who wants me to wear the green hat? One. So two want the red, one want the green. It has to be the red. Okay, here we go. Once upon a time, a long time ago, but not so long ago that we can't remember, there was a little girl. She wasn't too little, because already she was 14. And she had heard that something special was going to happen in town, and she wanted to go and find out what it was. But before we go with her to the center of town, we need to look at what's in here. I'm going to put them into my hand, and I wonder if you can see what they are. If you know what they are, put your hand up. If you don't, don't. Ooh, nobody knows what they are. I'm going to take one of, oh, Baba C knows what they are. You're going to tell us what they are, Baba C.
Let me see closer.
Oh, you said you knew what they were.
No, I need to see it again because it's either a seed or a pebble.
Ah, well, let's do that again.
They sound like pebbles, but they look like seeds.
And you're right, they are seeds. And these seeds are like all seeds. They are full of life. But to make a seed grow, you need two extra things apart from the ground that you put them in. You need to put the seed into soil. And then you need two things to make them grow. You need water and you need heat, very often sunlight. So that's what we need to know. And because sunlight is an important part of this story, I would like to present you with my world premiere of performing with a ukulele. I hope I do it well. There's a song about the sunshine. Oh, that's the wrong key. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You'll never know, dear, how much I need you. Please don't take my sunshine away. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine. Oh, away, away, away. So the girl knew that something was happening in the town square, because in the town there was somebody called a mayor. Now, what is a mayor? A mayor is a person who makes sure that the roads are mended in the town. A mayor is a person who makes sure that all the street lighting is working. A mayor is a person who makes sure that the garbage, the rubbish, is taken away. The mayor doesn't do these things, but the mayor sends people to do all these things, to make sure the street lights are working, to make sure the roads are working, to make sure there are enough bus drivers driving around the town to take people to work, and to make sure that everything is running smoothly. And the mayor had invited all the people of the town to come to the center of town because the mayor thought he was getting too old and he wanted to choose a new person to be the mayor. But how could he do it? And then he had an idea. He decided that he would give everybody in that square a little seed, a little sunflower seed. And in that crowd of people, there was our young girl. She was a 14-year-old girl, and she was excited. And as the mayor went around and gave every person a little sunflower seed, it came to her turn, and he gave it to her, and she put it in her hand, and she thought, maybe I will be the mayor of the town. Oh, and the mayor said, no, what I want you to do is take these seeds home, each one of you, plant the seed, and in 3 months' time, I want you to come back and show me what you've got. And so the girl went home. She ran, she ran, she ran. She was so excited. And she planted her little sunflower seed. She put it into some soil. And as you remember, to make a seed grow, we need water and we need sunlight. So she put some water into the pot, and she put the pot in the window where it would get some sunlight. Oh, what is that you've got? Said her mum. It's a seed. The mayor gave it to me. And the mayor said, come back in 3 months and show me what you've got. Oh, well, that's very good, dear. And you're doing what he told you? Yes. Now, I don't know if you know how long a seed takes to grow, but a sunflower seed normally takes about at least 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks. And then, first of all, there is a little, where can I hold it? A little sprout. Can you see that? And then it gets longer and longer and longer. And then sometimes there's a little leaf. And then sometimes there is another little leaf. And sometimes there's another little leaf. And if you're lucky, there is a flower here. Unfortunately, it's not a sunflower because I don't have a sunflower. But eventually a flower comes out. A beautiful yellow flower. Not this one, but a sunflower. And our little girl, we'll give her a name. We'll call her Sama. Sama, she wanted to have the best sunflower. But a month had passed and nothing had grown. And she said, Mom, nothing's grown. And Mom said, well, are you doing what the mayor told you to do? Yes. Plant the seed. Oh, maybe I'm giving it too much water. So she gave it less water and left it in the sun. 6 weeks passed. Still nothing had grown. Maybe it's got too much sunlight. So she took it out of the window. 2 months had passed. Mum, nothing's grown. But you've done what the mayor told you to do. Come back in 3 months' time and show me what you've got. I know, but nothing's grown yet. The night before she had to go to the square. Do you think anything had grown? Nothing had grown. And she said, I'm not going tomorrow, Mum. I'm not going because I've got nothing to show. And Mum said, but you did what the mayor told you. Yes. Well, I would suggest that you go tomorrow and just take what you got. So the morning came. And she took her empty pot down to the town square. And when she got to the town square, everybody had got a pot with sometimes not just one sunflower, but sometimes 2 sunflowers. Some of the sunflowers were huge, big sunflowers. Some of them were tiny ones. Some of them had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 heads. Some of them were yellow on the outside, black on the inside. Some were orange, some were a little bit red. All different types of sunflowers, and everybody had a sunflower except Summer. And she stood there looking down, not wanting anybody to see her. But the mayor walked around all the people and looked at all the flowers, and he passed every flower by. He didn't stop at any of these beautiful sunflowers until he came to Summer. And he said, Summer, come out front. And Summer thought, he's going to show me up in front of everybody. He's going to make fun of me. And so she walked to the front and he stood her there. And he said to everybody here, I want to tell you that this girl, what is your name? Summer. Summer will be the next mayor. What? And said everybody, the next mayor, she hasn't even got a flower. Look at my flower. I've got a big flower. I've got a yellow flower. I've got a flower with 4 heads. And the mayor said, yes, I know you tried to impress me. And it's nice to try to impress people. But you see, what I didn't tell you when I gave you each a little seed is that I boiled the seeds. And a seed that is boiled will never grow. Just like an egg that is boiled, if you like a boiled egg for your breakfast, it will never turn into a chicken. So a sunflower seed that's boiled won't grow. And the only person who did what I asked her to do was Summer. I needed someone who I could trust. I know you wanted me to trust you, but she did what I asked her. I needed somebody who I could rely on, and I'm relying on her. How old are you, Sama? She couldn't believe her luck. I'm 14. Well, you're a little bit young to be the mayor, but I tell you what, your mum and I will make sure that you learn slowly. And when you're 18, you can be the mayor of the town. And that's what happened. Bit by bit, she learned how to make the phone calls, make the emails, make sure people came to mend the roads, make sure there were enough people to drive the buses. And she was mayor in that town for many, many years. And she and many people, they lived very, very happily with her as the mayor of the town. Thank you very much. Thank you. So it's time for another story. And I never know what stories I'm going to tell until I see the people I'm telling to. Louis, did you like that? Did you like that story? Give us a wave if you liked it. Wow, that's great. That's great. I wonder what we should do now. I think I know exactly the story that I would like to tell. So we're moving away from this country where I live, and I'm in England. I'm actually in London, and in London today, it's very, very cold. There's frost outside. There's no snow, but in the north there is snow. So it's a cold day, and I'm going to another country, which at the moment is cold, but I don't think this story is as a winter story. This story comes from the country between China and Japan, and that country is Korea. And to say hello in Korean you say "안녕하세요." Yes, I see Baba C is saying it. I'm going to say it again. 안녕하세요. Yes, and that means hello, everybody. So 안녕하세요 from Korea. There was a farmer. He was very, very old, much older than me, with my white beard and my white hair. And Baba C's got a white beard and white hair. And I think somebody else there, Mr. John, has got a very long white beard. So we're a little bit old. But this man was very old. And as you know, we don't live forever. The man had 2 sons, but when he became too old to go on, this farmer, because he was a farmer, he died. And before he died, he said to the 2 sons, I want you each to take half of my farm. You must decide who has the farmhouse, but I want each of you to share equally everything on the farm. Each of you will have half of the land, and you must decide who will have the house. And the young son said, oh, you have it, brother, you have it, because you've got a family. I haven't got a family. So the elder brother had the house. And the young brother said, maybe you should have more land than me because you've got a family. I'm on my own. I'll have just a quarter of the land and you have 3/4. Well, the elder brother got used to having more than the younger brother. And bit by bit by bit by bit, he managed to have all of the farm and all of the house and all of the animals and all of the farm buildings. And the younger brother, what did he have? He had nothing. Now that's not fair, is it? Who thinks that's fair? If you don't think it's fair, put your hand up. Do you think that's fair, Louis? It's not fair. No, thank you. So the younger brother had nothing. But all the people in the village, they were sad for the younger brother. And they thought, oh dear, that older brother's done something not very nice to that younger brother. But they decided that they would give the younger brother a little bit of land. But it wasn't a good bit of land because they didn't have much land, and the land was on a hill. And so the problem is when you've got land on a hill and it rains, everything washes down to the bottom. And there were lots of stones on that land, big rocks and boulders, and he had to clear them, and he cleared them, and he cleared them, until 3 months later, he'd cleared the land that was on a hill on a slope. But he had nothing to grow in it. And so he thought, I know what? I need some seeds. But I can't ask the people of the village to give me seeds because they've given me this land. Maybe I should ask my brother to buy some seeds from him, because after all, he is my brother. And he went over to the farmhouse, which should have been half of his, but he was generous. And the brother had taken everything. And the rain was pouring. It was a very wet night. And he knocked on the door. And the door opened. And his brother looked at him from head to toe and from toe to head and said, "What do you want?" Oh, brother, I just wondered if I could if I could buy some seeds from you. Well, I suppose you can, but you have to pay for it. Oh, yes, I'll pay. Yes, yeah, you remember. And then the brother closed the door in his face. And the younger brother waited in the rain. And it was raining and he got wet through until the older brother brought some seeds. But he took a long time bringing them. And when he came, he got a tiny little bag, a cotton bag, filled with seeds. And he gave them to his brother. And he said, "You make sure that you pay me for them." "Oh, I will. When I've grown, these are sesame seeds. Oh, I can make some sesame seed oil, and people like sesame seed oil, and I can sell it, and I'll pay you back." And so he went back to that little plot of land on a hill, and he dropped all those seeds, he planted all those seeds in that land, and he waited. But just like summer, in the other story, he waited and waited and waited, and nothing grew. 1 month, 2 months, the weather was getting better, it was the season for things to grow, and nothing had grown. And he was so upset. And the only thing that made him happy in life was his little puppy dog. Woof, 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 with a little tail. Woof, 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 waggy little tail. Oh, little puppy, you're a friendly little puppy. But I'll tell you something. I haven't got anything to grow. What can I do? But the next morning, when he went to his little plot of land, he saw a tiny little shoot in the morning. And when he came back that night, that tiny little green shoot had grown into a huge, big field full, like a big vine of sesame plants. And they grew quickly, and overnight, the next day, they were ready to harvest. And he took those seeds and he thought, I'm going to grind them into sesame oil, because sesame oil is what people like, and I can sell it, and then I can give the money back to my brother who sold me the seeds. And so he stayed up all night grinding the seed. He was getting tired, but he ground all that seed. And when you grind sesame seeds, out of them comes lovely, lovely sesame oil. And he put that sesame oil, which is delicious and quite expensive, so he knew he was going to make some good money. He put all that sesame oil into a big, big stone bottle, a stone jar. And he was now so tired because it was 3 o'clock in the morning. And he put the stone jar on the floor of his little hut and he went to bed. But since he was grinding those seeds all night, his little puppy dog was so excited. Woof, 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 woof. Oh, what's this? What's this? What's this? Oh, what's this? Woof, 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 woof. And he saw that little stone jar. But the little stone jar didn't have a stopper. It didn't have a lid on it. And the little doggy, woof, 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 woof. What's this? What's this? What's it? And he tried to see what it was, and and the bottle fell over, and all that precious oil, glug, 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 spilled out all over the floor. And that little puppy dog, wow, 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 what's this? What's this? What's this? And he started licking. And then he started rolling in the oil. He was rolling in the oil like little dogs like to roll. He was covered in oil and he drunk so much oil. It was tasty. And then he fell to sleep, almost drunk on oil. And there he lay with his 4 little paws sticking up. And our young farmer brother woke up and he thought, oh, I'm going to have such a good day today going down to the market, selling that bottle of sesame oil. Oh, it's going to be so good. I worked so hard growing those plants. I worked so hard grinding that oil. It's going to be wonderful. Oh, let me see. And he walked into, he looked at the bottle, tipped over, and the stain of oil all over the floor, and his little greasy puppy. Woof, 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 woof. What have you done? And he picked up that little creature by the scruff of his neck, and he said, I'm going to punish you because I have grown those seeds. I cleared the land. I got rid of all the stones. I ground all those seeds. I made oil. I put them in a bottle, and you have spoiled it all. I'm gonna punish you. I'm going to take you to the gully up in the mountains where the tigers come. I don't care if they eat you. He was so angry he didn't know what he was saying. But he took that puppy by the scruff of his neck and he got a long rope and he put that little puppy up in the hill, in the gully. But then he thought, well, I don't want my little puppy to suffer, but I want you dead. And then he tied a rope around the neck of that little puppy. And he made a very, 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 very long rope tied around the tree. And then he left the puppy and he thought, well, the puppy's going to die, but he won't even know about it. And at least he can run around before he dies. Well, it didn't take long before long fangs, long teeth, and claws. The first tiger arrived, and the tiger looked at the little puppy and thought, Now, a little puppy is not like a meal for a tiger. A tiger needs a lot of meat, but maybe just a little snack, just like a few peanuts or a packet of crisps, a packet of potato chips. The tiger opened his big tiger mouth and look, in one gulp, the little puppy went into his mouth. And because he was so greasy, he slipped right down and right down here and out the other end. And there, at the end of the rope, was the puppy. And then the long bit of rope going right up, the tiger, and out of his mouth, and still connected to the tree. It didn't take long for another tiger to come along. And the other tiger with his big tiger mouth and his tiger thought, "Ah, little puppy, I'll have a little snack." And he opened his mouth and again, oh! Out the other end. And now there was a tiger and there was a little puppy. And then there was some rope and another tiger and another bit of rope and another tiger. And the other bit of rope was tied to the tree. 2 tigers trapped with rope right down through their mouths and out through their, you know what? And the 3rd tiger came along. Exactly the same, in the mouth, down there, through the stomach, through the intestines, up, out the other end. Oh, no, you had a puppy at the end of a rope, and then a long bit of rope, and then a tiger with a rope right through him and out his mouth, and then another bit of rope and another tiger right up his, we say bum, right up his bum and out of his mouth, and a 3rd tiger. By now, the young farmer, what have I done? I've been so bad. My poor, poor little puppy. I was so angry. I wanted him to suffer, but I don't. I love my little puppy. Oh, and he went to find his puppy, and he was expecting not to find his puppy, but just to find a greasy spot where the puppy had been and where the tigers had eaten him. But when he got to the gully, he saw that his little puppy was an excellent tiger catcher. And he thought, whoa, this is great. Now, these days, we don't kill tigers and we don't harm tigers because they're very beautiful and they're very precious. But this was a long time ago when there were many, many, many tigers in the world. And in Korea, a tiger skin would cost a lot of money. And now the young farmer had 3 tigers. And so he went to the village and he brought all the people to help him to take those tigers, to get the skin and to sell them in the market and to make a lot of money. So much money that he could share some of that money with the villagers. He bought his own plot of land. And his brother, we don't care what happened to his brother, but the young farmer, everybody loved him because he was as generous as they had been to him. And that is the story of the greasy puppy. Thank you. Thank you. So that story was from Korea. Now I see a big clap coming up. Simona Stambazzi. Oh, Simona Stambazzi, you must be from Italy. Buonasera, Simona. Simona, è vero? È vero? Oh, quanti anni hai? 30.
25.
Sì, 25. Ma non importa. It's very nice to have someone from Italy. I think we've got people all over the world. We've got 2 people in the United States. One is the famous Baba C, and the other is the even more famous John Rowe, who is directing this festival that's going to come up in 3 weeks' time in Morocco. And we're hoping that if you do put a donation into the little tip button, that will go to feed many people in Marrakesh, where yesterday there was a big celebration. I think it was 50,000 meals were given to poor people. So we want to give more meals to them. So I think
Seth,
yes,
we have to acknowledge David Thompson. He's a storyteller in Texas, and he's with us today. He just doesn't have a screen lit. Can't see his face.
David Thompson. We're sorry that David can't be with us in Morocco, but David has been such a real supporter of World Storytelling Cafe, and we're really sorry that he won't be here this year, but of course there will be some other years. Now, is that John speaking?
We have Norman in Canada.
Norman, are you there, Norman? Good evening, bonsoir. They speak 2 languages in Canada. Well, more than 2. They speak all the the indigenous First Nation languages, the Inuit languages. They speak French, they speak English. So welcome to people in Canada and people all over the world, wherever you are. We just had a story from Korea. We've had a story from England. I'm doing favorite stories tonight. So if you've heard some of the stories before, I think maybe Pat, you might have heard some of these stories because Pat is a big fan. And I think I'll tell a really easy little funny story. Here we go. I'm sure you might know it, but I think it's very good for children. And here, I wiggle my fingers, I wiggle my toes, I wiggle my shoulders, I wiggle my nose. Now no more wiggles are left in me. I'm as quiet can be to listen to the next story. And the next story is about wiggling, a very famous story. And here is Mr. Wiggle. Hello, Mr. Wiggle. Oh, there's Mr. Wiggle. And one day, Mr. Wiggle was in his house. The door was open. He was inside the house. He closed the door and he was asleep. Oh. But when he woke up, he opened the door. He came out of his house. He closed the door and he said, I'm going to see my friend, Mr. Waggle. No. Yeah, Mr. Waggle. And he said, Mr. Waggle, Mr. Waggle, Mr. Waggle, I'm coming to see you. So Mr. Wiggle set off up the hill and down the hill, and up the hill and down the hill, and up the hill and down the hill. And when he got to Mr. Waggle's house, Mr. Waggle was inside his house, fast asleep. So Mr. Wiggle had to knock on his door. He went knock, knock, knock. Did Mr. Waggle wake up? So again, you can help me. He went knock, knock, knock. Did Mr. Waggle wake up? No. So one more time. He went knock, knock, knock. But Mr. Waggle didn't wake up at all. So Mr. Wiggle had to go all the way home. He went up the hill and down the hill, and up the hill and down the hill, and up the hill and down the hill. And when he got home, he was tired out, so he opened the door. He went inside. He closed the door, and he went to sleep. At that very moment, Mr. Waggle woke up. He opened his door. He came out of the house. He closed the door, and he said, I'm going to see my friend, Mr. Wiggle. And he did exactly the same thing as Mr. Wiggle had done before. He went up the hill and down the hill, and up the hill and down the hill, and up the hill and down the hill. And when he came to Mr. Wiggle's house, he did the same thing. He knocked 3 times on the door. He went knock, knock, knock. Mr. Wiggle didn't wake up. He was fast asleep. So again, he went knock, 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 fast asleep. And the 3rd time he knocked, knock, knock, knock. But Mr. Wiggle didn't wake up. So Mr. Waggle had to go all the way home, up the hill, down the hill, up the hill, down the hill, up the hill and down the hill. Same thing. He was tired out, opened the door, went inside, closed the door. And now both Mr. Wiggle and Mr. Waggle were fast asleep till the next day. But next morning, they both woke up at the same time. They opened their door at the same time. They came out of the house at the same time. They closed their door at the same time. And Mr. Waggle said, I'm going to see my friend, Mr. Wiggle. And Mr. Wiggle said, I'm going to see my friend, Mr. Waggle. So they both set off at the same time, up the hill and down the hill, and up the hill and down the hill, and up the hill and down the up. Hello, Mr. Waggle. Hello, Mr. Wiggle. Give me a hug. Oh, I love giving people hugs. And he went hug, 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 hug. Of course, we go hug, 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 hug. But they're only little. So they had to do hug, 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 hug. Oh, hey, Mr. Wiggle, I was going to invite you to my house for tea. Oh, well, I was going to invite you to my house for tea. I tell you what, said Mr. Waggle, why don't you come to my house at 4 o'clock? And I'll have some scones and some really nice cream cakes and some tea. Would you like that? Oh, I'd love it. And I'll bring some things as well. So give me another hug and I'll see you at 4 o'clock. Hug, 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 hug. And they settle back home, up the hill and down the hill, and up the hill and down the hill, and up the hill and down the hill. And when they got home, they opened their door at the same time. They went in at the same time, closed their door at the same time, and they both fell asleep. And they dreamed of all the lovely tea time things they would have at their meal. And that is the famous story of Mr. Wiggle and Mr. Waggle. Bye, Mr. Wiggle. Bye, Mr. Waggle. So, is there time, Mr. John Rowe? Do we have time for another story? Or would somebody else like to tell another story?
Well, we'd love you to tell another story, actually.
Shall we have
It's
another
so
story? Okay, let me see.
Getting whole 3/4 of an hour or an hour or however you can tell any story you want.
Okay.
Why is it that
Well, I will tell one of my favorite stories. There might be some people here who speak Spanish, and this also famous story comes from Spain, which is called España in Spanish. España. Many, many, many years ago in España, in Spain, people didn't have taps or faucets, as people in the States call them, and Canada. They didn't have faucets, or we call them taps in England. So you couldn't just turn the tap on and water came out. You couldn't have a shower like we have a shower. You had to go all the way to the well to get it. Now, there was a young girl who had to walk every day to the well. And she lived in a very deserty part of Spain. So she had to walk all the way with a bucket on her head. And she walked and she walked and she walked and she walked. And when she got to the well, she would take off her bucket and she put it on a rock just by the well. Now, this is not a well with a wall. This is just a little hole in the ground type of well, like they used to be, where water just gurgled up. She put the bucket by the side of the well on a rock. And then, before she put the bucket into the well, she looked to her wrist, because on her wrist, she had a beautiful coral bracelet. Now, coral is a very, very special, it's like a stone, but it comes from underneath the sea. And underneath the sea, before the coral gets hard and becomes a stone, it moves. And just yesterday in the South Pacific, a huge garden of coral was found, 2 kilometers wide with beautiful shapes. They're like flowers, but these ones were big and like roses. And coral has a color of a little bit pink, a little bit orange, a little bit in between. And she had a bracelet made of coral, which her mother had given her. And she loved her bracelet made of coral because it reminded her of her mum. And she only had a mum. She didn't have a dad, just a mummy. And she took that bracelet off because she didn't want to lose it. And she put it on another rock on the other side of the well. And then she picked up the bucket, she put it into the well, filled it with water. And when you've put a bucket into a well and you have to pull it out, for a while, it's even heavier than it would be when it's out of the water. So she pulled and pulled and pulled. And then she got it out of the water. There she had a bucket full of water. She put it down again because she had to put back on her bracelet. Now, I'm sure you know why she took the bracelet off in the first place. Because, of course, she didn't want that bracelet to fall into the water and get lost because it was so precious to her. But now there it was, and she picked it up, put it on her wrist once more, picked up the bucket, put it on her head, and she walked and she walked and she walked and she walked, and she walked home. But she had to do this every day, like some children in Sudan, some children in India, some children in other countries still don't have water coming from fresh water coming from a tap or a faucet. They have to go all the way to a well, just like our young girl. But she had to do it every single day. And every day when she took her bucket to the water, it was always the same. Every day the same, every day the same, every day the same, every day the same. And this day was just the same as any other day. Every day the same, every day the same, every day the same, every day the same. And this was just the same. She took off the bucket, she put it by the well on a stone, and then she looked at her bracelet and always remembered her mum when she looked at her beautiful pink orange coral bracelet. She took the bracelet off and put it safely on a stone on the other side of the well. And she picked up the bucket and she put the bucket into the water. And when you have to take it out of the water until it's really out, it's heavy, heavy, heavy. And she pulled it and she put it down on the rock on the other side of the well. Every day the same, every day the same, every day the same, every day the same. Every day wait a minute, this day wasn't the same. Something was different. The bucket was there, the well was there, but the bracelet was not there. What had happened? It didn't fall in the water because she took it off so it wouldn't fall in the water. The wind didn't blow it away. Maybe somebody's stolen it. And she looked over her right shoulder. But nobody was there. She looked over her left shoulder. And standing there was a man who had a bracelet in his hand. And he said, "Hey, I've been watching you every day. And I know that you come here every day. This is your bracelet, isn't it?" "Yes, I would like it back, please. I would like my bracelet back." "Come and get it." And as she moved forward to reach her bracelet, he moved back. And she moved forward and he moved back. "I want my bracelet." And she leaned forward and she was just touching the bracelet when he grabbed her and he bundled her up and he put her into a sack. And he put that sack over his shoulder and he started walking. And as he walked, he said, "I've been watching you. And every day when you come, you sing a song. And now you can sing a song for me. I'm going to take you to Market Square and I'm going to say, this sack that I've got with you inside it is a magic singing sack. And people will pay me money when I say, I've got a magic sack and it sings. Do you want to hear it sing? And they say, yes, we want to hear it sing. And you can sing that song that I've heard you sing." And he came to the town square. And he put the sack down. He said, "People, people, people, I've got a magic singing sack. And if it sings, will you give me some money for it?" "Magic singing sack? Of course we'll give you some money. We've never seen a magic singing sack before." Now in Spain, just like in the United States and Canada and Italy and India and Morocco and South Africa and Zimbabwe and Russia, they didn't have television. They didn't have radio. They didn't even have newspapers. So they had to sing. They had to entertain each other. They had to tell stories. And these people in the square, they thought, magic singing sack. They believed it. And they said, "Go on, show us your magic singing sack." He said, "Sack, sing." But the sack, the girl inside the sack, didn't sing. He said, sack, sing. She didn't. So he did something terrible, something that people do not do. He picked up a stick and he hit that sack. And then a voice came out of the sack. And first I'll sing it in Spanish, and then I'll sing it in English. And she sang. Yo soy la única hija de mi mamá, sola, muy sola estará. Yo fui a la fuente, el agua traer, y ahora mi madre no puedo volver. Which in English is, I am my mother's only daughter. Now she'll be alone, all alone, all alone. I went to fetch water from the well. Now I can't get home, can't get home, can't get home. And everyone in that square, they thought that was so beautiful. That beautiful little voice coming from that magic singing sack. And every hand went into every pocket, and every hand came out with a coin, and they gave the coins to the man. And the man thought, ha, 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 I'm onto a good thing here. I'm going to make lots of money out of this magic singing sack. Ha, ha, ha. And he picked up the sack. And he went to the nearest taverna. He went to the nearest pub, the nearest hostelry, the nearest restaurant drinking place. And he had a big meal with meat and roast potatoes and onions, and he had lots and lots to drink. But the girl, he knew he had to feed her, and he gave her some scraps and a bit of dry bread and water. And he went from town to town, from village to village, from settlement to settlement, all over Spain. And every place he went, he said, I've got a magic singing sack. Would you like to hear it sing? And the people said, magic singing sack? Oh, I don't think so. But as soon as it sang, Yo soy la única hija de mi mamá. Now she'll be alone, all alone, all alone. Yo fui a la fuente, el agua traer. No, I can't. I forgot the English words. No, I can't get back to my home is what she sang. But the people loved the song, and the people gave money, and the man grew many, many inches on his waist, and he had to get a new pair of trousers because he'd eaten so many good meals. But the girl, she was sad, she was lonely, and she was getting thin because she wasn't eating properly. And she was in a sack all day, dusty and dirty, and imagine, bundled up all day. And now the summer came, and the summer in this part of Spain was so hot, the insects, the sound of the crickets in the dry grass, and he was walking with a sack, and he thought, oh, it's so hot, I'm so tired. If he was hot and tired, how was she? All sweaty and dirty in that sack. But he saw on the horizon, it was a long way from any town, but he saw what he thought was a farmhouse. And he thought, oh, I'll go over to that farmhouse. Maybe they'll give me a few coins and maybe something to drink if we have one song from the sack. And he went over to that house and he knocked on the door. And very slowly, the door opened. And a sad-looking lady came to the door. Yes? What is it? I've got a magic singing sack, and if it sings for you, will you give me something to drink, because I'm so thirsty? Magic singing sack. maybe it'll make me happy. I've been so sad this last year. Yes, okay, let me hear your magic singing sack. And he said, sack, sing. And of course, he didn't have to hit the sack anymore. Once was enough for that girl. She didn't want to be hit in that sack. And when the sound came from that sack, I am my mother's only daughter. Now she'll be alone, all alone, all alone. I went to fetch water from the well. Now I can't get home, can't get home, can't get home. And the first note of that song, that mother knew exactly that her child was in that sack, because a mother will always recognize the sound of her child. And suddenly the mother thought, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? This man is crazy. This man is mad. This man is horrible. Maybe he'll hurt me. Maybe he'll hurt my daughter. What can I do? What can I? And then she had a thought. That was really good. I think you deserve a big glass of wine. And so her homemade wine, she poured him a big good glass of wine, and he drank it. Oh, thank you, lady. Oh, she seems to like this. It's only us. Well, they don't get out much, these people in the country. Oh, no, they don't know. And he drank it. Ah, that's very good wine. Would you like another glass? Oh, I don't mind if I do. And so he had another. Oh, that's really good wine. I tell you what, just have one more. And she poured him. Will you have another? Yes. I don't know if you're counting, but she gave him one more again. She was already on the end of the second bottle, and she opened a third bottle and she said, will you have one more? I don't mind if I do. It's very good wine. And this wine is very and of course, she knew that he wouldn't wake up again until the next morning. I don't know if you were counting, but he had so many glasses of wine, and he lay in a heap on the ground. She went over to the sack, and she opened the sack, and coming out of the sack, she looked into her daughter's eyes. She saw the thin, hollow cheeks. She saw how pale and white her skin was. One tear dropped to the ground, and another tear dropped to the ground, and a third tear from another face, and a fourth tear, but they were tears of relief and tears of joy. And she hugged her daughter and she said, quick, go into the house, get some rest, get some food. I've got work to do. And the daughter went into the house and she got just a little bit of food. She couldn't eat so much these days because she hadn't been eating, but she lay on her lovely, her own bed. Oh, and she just fell to sleep. But her mother went around the other side of the house where that horrible whiny cat, that mangy cat, used to come and visit her, and it would scratch people. Meow, meow, meow. And she went over to the empty sack where her daughter had been. She picked up that cat and she put the cat into the sack and tied it up. Then she went around the other side of the house to the barn where that woofy, bitey dog was. She never liked that dog. It wasn't hers, it was a stray. And she picked up that dog by the scruff of its neck. She opened the sack, she put the dog into the sack, and she left it there. Oh, in the morning, oh, the man woke up and he said, I've really slept well. And the mother said, I've slept really, really well. You don't know what you have brought me. And the man thought, I don't know what you brought. It was only a song. Oh, these people, they live far in the country. They don't have anything. I suppose it was okay for her, but okay, I better be going now. Okay, well, goodbye now. And he picked up the sack and he walked 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 to the next town. And when he got to the next town, he said the same thing. I've got a magic singing sack. Would you like to hear? Magic singing sack. Yeah, okay, let's hear. Sack, sing. The sack didn't sing. The first time in a year. What's wrong with the sack? Sack, sing. He had to get his stick out and he hit that sack. And the sound that came out of that sack. Well, if you've heard a cat fight, or if you've heard dogs fighting, they make such a terrible sound. And the people said, get out of our village. You're tricking us. That's not a magic singing sack. It's a horrible sound. Get out. And they chased him out of the village. And he ran and ran and ran and ran and ran. And when he got right outside the village, he said, I'm going to teach you a thing or two, my girl. And he started to open that sack. And of course, I don't need to tell you that that angry, scratchy dog and that bitey cat, when they got out of that sack, already biting at his ankles, the man was running and they were chasing, and he was running and they were chasing. He was running, they were chasing. And whenever they could, they gave him a bite as they chased him. And he's probably running until this day. But the mother and her daughter, whenever they remembered just how happy they were, they also remembered that sometimes you must remember that life is not always happy. And occasionally the daughter sang that very sad song. But sometimes a sad song is just what we need. And that's the story of the magic singing sack. And that is the end of my stories tonight. I hope you did enjoy it. And I just want to plug something, because these are two books, the latest that has just been published, called London's River Tales for Children, by myself and my colleague Anne Johnson. And the one that came before it, London Folk Tales for Children, they're both available. And I want to find some way of sharing these books as prizes in Morocco. So if you are able to give a few pennies, your pennies will go to the Henna Cafe in Morocco. And maybe some of the children in Morocco who are learning to read can have one or two of these books, and your pennies would help very much. Thank you very much.
Oh, amazing, Seth. Fantastic. What a brilliant session. And in the parish notices, what is coming up? What's the day? Friday. So Sunday, 6 o'clock UK time, Greenwich Mean Time. It's a worldwide story round. So everyone is invited to come tell a story, read a poem, do something, stand on their head. There's Tuesday, 4:30 UK time. It's our young international tellers, and you're welcome to come in live to be the audience. We usually have some children from India, sometimes from Gaza, sometimes from the UK, sometimes from Nigeria. We got our little world, and Scotland, a little world community of young tellers growing. And then next Friday, we've got Yanina Vargas as our children's teller, which is brilliant. And then on Sunday, there's our probably last Rock the Casbah, which is the fundraiser for the festival. And Norman, who has generously donated books as raffle prizes for the people that have donated. And I'll have all the list out by then. We will draw the raffle. So that's Sunday week. Meanwhile, thank you, everybody.
Hey, John?
Thank you, whether you're listening, come in live room, in the live room, or just watching on the cafe without coming in live or Facebook or wherever. Yep. Yes, Bubba? You're
I
about to say something,
understand
Bubba.
that the last Rock the Cash bar has
Okay.
3 extraordinary griots. Is that true?
This is yes, yeah. There is, in fact. I need to point this out. It's not just any old Rock the Gas bar. There will be Solar Story. There will be Baden Prince, and there will be himself, a Baba C. So I think it's going to be, and a few other people in there. So it's going to be one big session.
And I have been Seth inspired.
Yeah, I mentioned Baba C. It's okay. Yes. You're there. So anyway, that's Sunday week. But this well, thank you. That's right. Thank you, Seth. Thank you, everyone else. Goodbye till then, and